and I've been reading
say
this thing.
it differently. Yeah. But like the work I do, even with the meditations that I lead through the yogic lineage, that's all very much energy healing and
Mhm.
consciousness expansion. So it's a lot of it does a lot. And so my practices just have expanded beyond just, offering like the rites in the prayer book.
By the way, I started a recording. I apologize. I meant to ask your permission to begin with,
Oh,
and I
well,
forgot to start it at the beginning. So if it's okay, I got it now. If it isn't, I can stop it.
Oh,
yeah,
Bob, that's totally unacceptable. You have to
Yeah,
stop.
right. I no, you
right.
can't do that.
No.
I
I know.
refuse to I refuse to listen to it. So, I don't like the sound of my voice. Um, Thanks, Gina. I think I have enough information because these little their profiles are not all that long. I just
Mhm.
want my goal with the program, and I've told Bob this. I don't know if I mentioned this to Jeff or not, but my goal with the program is to give people history, the history of first of all how this conference came about, that kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
The little bit about each of the speakers beyond what your academic credential and spiritual credentials may be, because you're more than that. Yes, certainly that's part of who you are. You're a minister, and that's part of who you are, but you are other things as well. And so that's my goal with this little profile is just to give, if you want to call it a peek behind the door, just a little bit. And I'm going to be talking about the logo and all of these things because I want them to understand that this is a work of love from a whole lot of people that came together to do this. And the Holy Spirit brought us together, keeps us from shooting each other, or strangling each other, and gives us the grit to hold on and keep moving. And I
Mm.
want somehow to be able to get that across to the attendees because we're fully aware there's going to be people out there that don't believe in God or have a about it. And my goal with this is to kind of, if nothing else, get them to sit back and think, maybe there is something to this God thing. So that
Okay, so
has,
let me ask maybe it sounds like a silly question, but I guess I was under the impression that most of the people that would be coming to this would be religious.
not
So,
necessarily,
Well,
so but
let me
when I say most, I mean most, yeah. So
not
what do
necessarily.
you think, Bob?
We're going to have a lot of scientists too.
let me address that real quick. Um, Hammerhoff, for example, I got the top scientist speakers, I think, with a personal presence, me exception, the rest top notch. And I'm on the phone with Hammerhoff. Now, Hammerhoff's working with Penrose. These are top scientists around the world. And
Right.
well, I'm not that religious. Do you want somebody religious? I said, no. I want solid science. That's all I'm interested in.
Okay.
And then he immediately started to launch in how consciousness precedes birth and survives death.
I love it.
Yeah.
So here, that's what I wanted. Okay. And I could have selected, I know Freeman. I met him. I worked with him. I could have selected him. I could have gotten Rohr. I could have possibly gotten Penrose, although he's in his 90s, but whatever. But I don't know if you noticed the synergy of man woman down the different Abrahamic faiths. And I didn't want that. I wanted a female presence and preferably ordained. So there you are.
Well,
It's a matter of,
I guess I have the right gender.
yeah, you kind of
Yeah.
qualify for that, Jenna. One of the things that
Okay.
you may not know about the book itself, from obviously from which this conference springs,
Okay.
one of our goals as we were working on it, well, was why I was involved with it to begin with, is we wanted it understandable for non-theologians and we wanted it understandable for non-scientists, neither of which am I. So
Okay.
if my deal was if I can understand it, anybody out there can. So that's number one. But the other thing is, Jenna, the book was written for people who are searching.
Okay.
And that's hopefully the type of person or one of the types of people we're going to attract are those that are searching for answers.
Right. Right. Okay. All right. I'd like to say one thing to add to Jan to if there was something else to add that you wanted to make sure in my bio, because
Uh-huh.
Bob touched on it, and I want to make sure I say this, especially in context of what we're doing and the work we're doing, is that part of the work that I also do is to help facilitate people's integration of the divine feminine
Mm. Okay.
for wholeness. So I have a podcast called Path to Wholeness, and that podcast is about the divine masculine and the divine feminine in every one of us. And it's not that one should be higher than the other. It's that the work now in this century is to bring them into balance.
Right. Yeah.
And so the work is for women particularly is to help them bring their divine feminine in, and for men as well, to where for men they're not threatened, for women they have courage. So it's both. It's a both and. So I want to throw that out there, because I think it's important to say that integrating the divine feminine for wholeness is part of the work.
Mhm.
If you will notice,
Especially with this community, and they may not many of the scientists like divine, forget it, feminine, forget it, that's not my work, but it's important and essential for us as a planet that this work get done.
if you will notice, anytime I refer to the Holy Spirit, it is always she.
It is for me as well. And Bob, for you, the spirit is he, because I found it in there.
Well, I think I've converted him just a little bit in the last
Okay,
5 years. I do think
Okay.
I've converted him just a
Actually, there
little
was
bit.
a place in the book where I talked about how
Yeah,
we run the risk of creating God in our image rather than
right.
allowing God to create us in her image.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
He
in an
did, but
image that we
he's
can't
getting,
even,
Then I settled
imagine.
back into him because I was, I'm a man.
yeah. No, he really is getting better, Jenna.
I'm glad. I mean, for all of us, like it's a journey, right?
Well,
Yeah.
sure it is, and we're all
It's
learning
not a
from each other.
test at all, but it's just where we are as society.
Well, and we're
is
all
going
learning
to
from
take
each other.
centuries again, to rework this.
Please
So
God, not centuries.
yeah, but we're trying to get back into balance. And so a lot of the work I do is about balance, just
Balance.
bringing
Yeah.
people into balance. And that's the work of, and we're not going to be whole unless we're in balance. So I love the fact that you want me to talk a little bit about the Christian mystics, because it's funny, there are men, but a lot of them are women, so
Rhineland mystics in particular.
which
I'm
ones?
sorry, what'd you say?
Mystics of the Rhineland, Hildegard
Yeah.
of Bingen and
Yeah.
Matilda Cuthbert.
Hildegard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of
I'm
course,
finding,
and of
the
course,
column.
of course, Teresa of Avila, the statue at the
Right.
front.
Well,
And
the
that's-
message from the mystics in the newsletter, I'm focusing on more or less contemporary mystics. And I'm finding in my research, there's a pretty decent balance between men and women
Mhm.
as I look through it.
Yeah.
And so actually, I've been very conscientious about alternating between men and women, because
Agree. Yeah.
even though it may be a subtle thing, I want our readers to know that yes, they're both and they're living today and
Yeah,
walking
you're
among
right.
us. Yeah. But yeah, I'm
And then it's both. It's both.
yeah,
It's
exactly. It's
either
both
or.
men
It's
and
not
women.
one more than the other.
No, and it's not. That's why I'm alternating back and forth between them. The interesting
But,
that
and
are
I find that there's a lot that integrate, as you were talking about, Jenna, in terms of the different faith traditions that you bring in. We do a United in Spirit retreat each spring, and one of the participants in that and leaders is a nun in the Congregation of Sisters of St. Joseph of Peace, but she's also a Zen master. And so
Mm,
she draws on both of those, and it's a very rich experience.
she sounds amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
she's
like
an
our,
amazing lady.
it's
Maybe
like
she
Father
can
Kennedy,
come
our board
next
member.
to Houston. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be great. I'd love that. I mean, the Zen, Christian and Zen have come together quite a bit.
Hmm.
Christian Zen, there's a whole Christian Zen, group of people that understand that those Zen practices are so congruent with Christ consciousness. That's also the work I do. So I'm just throwing out a lot of words, but my book is about Christ consciousness. And so that brings in all these contemplative traditions. Zen is right there.
For what it's worth, I originally was trying to get Kennedy and had planned on Kennedy, Father Kennedy, Roshi Kennedy,
Right.
to cap it off at the very end. And then I couldn't fit him in because of the schedule and all this. And then I started to realize I needed to condense it down to something that was manageable between the Abrahamic faiths and being
Right.
at Rome. That was the logical place to start with the future conferences, whatever. And
Right.
Jeff
Right.
is going to get into the panel discussions and all that, but you'll have an opportunity to explore these other areas in discussions. So I don't want you to feel like you're being constrained in your presentation of the Christian mystical practice and not be able to talk about these other things at a certain point in the conference.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think this is great. It's a wonderful opportunity and I'm honored and feel very blessed. And I think this 45 minutes will be we can create a beautiful experience for everyone, believers and non-believers and interfaith, folks as well. And to just experience what happens in the silence and the stillness.
There's more to come. Jeff, you want to talk about the panel discussions?
Well, I can talk about that. I've got a couple of follow-ups that I'd like to do to the
Okay.
helpful questions that Jan asked. By necessity, I think the introduction at that dinner is going to be a matter of being fairly brief, but I'd like to flesh out some of those points. And so I'd ask just a couple of questions here. And I'm just scrolling back in the notes I took when I looked at your website and so forth.
Okay.
And you alluded to that in Jan's last question, but you talked, I think in one of the text sections, you talk about whole self worship. Could you just sort of elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes. Okay. So the whole self worship is the form of worship we've created called yoga mass.
Okay.
And what that is an integration of mind, body, and spirit. Another way to say that is breath practices, yoga practices, meditation practices, prayer, and Eucharist or Mass.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to repeat that last part, the breath,
Yes.
prayer, and what else?
So breath, yoga,
Okay.
meditation, prayer, and Eucharist.
Rest. Okay.
And so we didn't call it yoga Eucharist. We called it yoga mass because the word, was easier. It just felt like it rolled off.
Right.
But it is a form of worship where we're not just standing and sitting, and we're not just going from the head to the heart.
Mm-hmm.
We're going the whole body and all of our energy and our soul, our spirit, all of us, like even down to the cellular level.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really integrating all of those aspects of our being into the experience of worship. And ultimately, it is for union with God and Christ consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So the work of yoga mass is definitely mind, body, spirit, but we also take them into Christ consciousness.
Okay.
So that's the goal, is to see what Christ consciousness can be and to know that we're invited into that. And we get that when we share in the Mass or the Eucharist. But when we come at it from the place that we've moved the body and done the breath work, it's so palpable.
Okay.
So we worship on our yoga mats.
Yeah. Okay, that's very helpful. I'm just looking to see what other things I want to do. And this sort of leads into it, is the convergence, and you've addressed that. That was just one question I'm sort of thinking out loud right now.
Sure. Yeah.
What are the convergence between meditation, yoga, and Christian faith? I guess one question I might ask is, what led to your discovery as these being congenial aspects that basically are congruent with each other? What in your life, because you started out in business, as I understand, in human resources, what led to the path, of you first training going into the Episcopal Seminary, and then integrating these other efforts? I guess I'm just trying to dig
Yeah.
down what led to that path.
Yeah, it's a great question. And so I started doing yoga when I was in high school. But here's what really led me to this work was my contemplative prayer practice. When I went into silence, Jeff, everything shifted. I was called to ordained ministry, which I never dreamed in a million years because I loved being in the corporate world. And as I moved into the process of learning in the seminary, what I found is that congruently, I was learning mind, body, spirit practices.
Okay.
And they fed on each other. But I could not just go forward just doing Eucharist for people on Sunday mornings and doing the ministry because I knew that I found God in my contemplative practices, which also included yoga. Yoga and meditation, I needed them both, and I could not choose one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
So the integration work ultimately just had to happen. The Spirit was not going to let me go with that. So my church said, yes, go get your yoga teacher training. And off I went to Costa Rica, came back. We started yoga mass, and the bishop of the Diocese of Texas said, yes, let's do yoga mass. So I started doing yoga mass, and I wrote a book about it. And the book goes through all of the aspects of how I integrate yoga and Christianity, moving through scripture, Old Testament and New Testament, and Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. So I worked through the meditation practices, the yoga practices, and I worked through my theological, struggle in that book of how can I truly integrate these and how is it faithful? And absolutely it is faithful. And the book is called Yoga Mass, Embodying Christ Consciousness.
I'm just typing that down.
And it's on
Is that the book that
Amazon.
you referred to before?
It is the book, right? It's the only one so far. So I also have published yoga prayer cards that I use that I sell for yoga teachers and people that are doing their embodied practices. But really what I'm doing is teaching through Yoga Mass embodied Christ consciousness.
This is what it looks like, Jeff.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
it. And it's on
oh,
Amazon.
excellent.
Thank you. So, um, uh, um, one of my spiritual directors, Pittman McGehee, who is a retired Episcopal dean of the cathedral here in Houston, he's also a Jungian analyst. He wrote the foreword to the book, and he said to me, I don't know why I didn't think of this. Like, this is so powerful. This is so needed. This is the work of integration. And so at first I was really afraid to do it because I thought I'm going to get kicked out of the priesthood because I'm going outside the tradition, and I already was a meditator. I'm an oblate with the World Community for Christian Meditation. So I became an oblate in Tuscany outside of Siena at the Monte Oliveto, where the Benedictine order, WCCM, is housed. And that's our home base there with Father Lawrence Freeman. And I'm very much a contemplative, but just sitting in silence was even not enough for me. I needed to integrate the body, the whole self. And so as I've done that, I've been exploring a lot about consciousness, and I totally agree that the consciousness is here before we're born, and it goes on, life continues. And the more I do this work, the more I realize right now we're just in this body right now. This is just part of the journey to be in this body at this moment.
Just wanted to say something real quick. Gena's on our board of the Contemplative Network.
Right.
So that's going to be a recurring notice on who's doing the speaking, because ultimately we're going to culminate in, well, what is Contemplative Network going to do and go for path forward?
Mm-hmm.
5 of the, what is it? 2, 4, 6. 5 of the 6 speakers are on our board.
Now, yeah. If you're designing a conference, is that what you want, is for your board to be the speakers generally? I'm just curious.
Not necessarily. It just worked out that way,
To
Gena.
answer your question, the key speakers in this whole conference are the science speakers.
That's right.
And what
Yeah.
Jan was talking about were the speakers on the contemplative side.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Because
to answer your question, that's not normal in a conference, but this is not a normal conference.
right. Well, I also love that you've got the scientists bringing in, these conversations, and then to have the mystics from all these traditions, because we'll say we're all mystics, we are, and to have us in conversation with the scientists and being able to talk together about these issues and about what does it really mean, um, quantum physics has blown everything up for us, so we have to talk.
Yeah, well, it's that's what I'm going to try to wrap together at the end, at the very last presentation, is like kind of the conference summary as to why the singularities properties are so important to mysticism and all of this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be making a special effort to define words, because in this subject, they are completely used differently throughout. So you're going to notice that at the beginning of my presentation for the prayer, I'm going to talk about what the etymological definition is of meditation and contemplation. And I think you'll find it's the same as in the book that I wrote, but it's different than what people use, how people use the term meditation. And I'm going to talk about how meditation is the use of engaging in thoughts. This is the etymological use, and with or without moving your lips, okay? Whereas contemplation is without the thoughts. Whereas our society now has used meditation to apply to both. And I'm trying to be more specific about this because that's part of the struggle in interfaith contemplative practice. That's why I tend to use the word contemplative rather than mystic to describe interfaith. So you're going to see, I'm going to try to set the tone to get us all thinking in terms of the same page.
Well, I think that
otherwise we won't.
So that's so important. And I think for all of the speakers, if you could give us your definition page, we need to know that because that way, so that all of our talks, even if you're the one teaching it, but that way that we're all consistent.
I agree. And it's all in my book. And and you'll also, you're going to find a lot of the questions that you've asked, particularly the ones that the bishop was asking, are answered in the website. So he was concerned about, do we have, are we going to talk about consciousness, and who's is he going to have a scientist that knows what they're talking about? That's Roger Penrose, Nobel Prize winner with Hammerhoff. So I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the website.
I've looked at it extensively, but because I don't know all of these scientists, I'm not able to answer. But here's what I'm thinking is his PhD is in consciousness. So he wants to know, like, who are the players, like, because he knows. So I wanted to get really specific with him,
and please give him the website. And I'm assuming you're going to be able to get him to put on the website for the Episcopal Diocese.
Yeah, I'm sure I will, but we're still in that early conversation, and I'm just being real gentle, not pushing too hard, just allowing this process to unfold. And I'm sure it will not be a problem to get it promoted through them, but I also want to just let it unfold. So,
as I offered, I'd be happy to speak to him directly, so he can hear directly the caliber of these speakers.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. I'm doing my best to get y'all connected. He's just, he has gatekeepers, and I went around them. And so I'm being real careful. Okay. So that's all I'm saying, but I'm doing my best. Okay. So yeah. So did I answer all of your questions that you had, Jeff?
Just looking at my list, and I think so. I want to get a copy of your book and read that, because that's just when I do these sorts of things, I like to over research, because it gives you a sort of that sort of extra sense of who it is you're talking about and what might be worthwhile to bring out. The other element, and Bob alluded to this, is, and I believe I understand this correctly, is that there's going to be a series of panel discussions after these various presentations. And on Thursday, I'm just going to go over to my schedule
Yeah, let
here.
me look too. Okay.
Yeah, Thursday, June 19th. That day, and you've met my friend Jamal Rahman, who's going to be leading the Sufi contemplative prayer.
Right.
And then
Mm-hmm.
we have Dr. Hammeroff and Dr. Koenig on biology to consciousness, and then Dr. Finley and our own Bob doing psychology to mysticism. There's going to be Q&A after each of those with those speakers, but then there's a panel discussion. And this is essentially largely wrapping that up in terms of the active presentations. There'll be a panel discussion, and you're going to be one of those people that'll be on that. Correct about that, Bob?
Yes,
Yes.
Jen?
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
On
Is
Thursday.
that right? Okay. Is that
And
right? You're talking about on Thursday.
Thursday from 4
Okay.
to 5 p.m. And
Okay.
so that will largely be, it'll be an opportunity for you and I, outside of, that I think will be at its sort of like, I've flown into Houston once on but I think it's like Houston, JFK, LAX, or any of those, there's going to be a lot of traffic in terms of uh, a lot of very distinguished wisdom traditions represented and also scientific background. And our hope is that each of you will have questions for each other, particularly
Mhm.
with what was discussed that day. So
Okay.
that would be a thing just to, as you go through the program, and Bob and Jan, please jump in. My suggestion would be just take notes on something that jogs your head, your heart, or the entirety of your being. That's something that I think would be good bringing up as sort of the summation of this conference, and then raise that in that
Okay.
final panel discussion. Does that make sense, Bob and Jen?
Yeah, the other thing that we're explaining, we want both science and faith represented
Right.
in these individual panel discussions because logic tells you the questions we get or could get from the audience may cover both. Some of them may be integrated. And so we want a representative up there that can come at it from either the religious or not the religious, but the faith side or the science or both. And the only way we
Yeah.
can do that comfortably is if you're sitting up on a stage. And so
Right.
that was the thinking behind these panel discussions, because this is a faith and science conference. So
Right.
I'm thinking, I'm trying to put myself in the place of the audience. And there's going to be questions
Yeah.
about both. And this way, in theory anyway, we have an expert or experts in this case on both sides. So that's the thinking behind these panel discussions, Gena, is to give
Okay.
not equal necessarily, but that everybody has an opportunity. And the questions,
So,
yeah.
yeah, that's great. I appreciate you explaining that. So, are you thinking on this panel discussion that the audience is going to be asking the questions, or those of us on the panel just listening
Yeah.
to things that
One of
day?
our
So kind
deals,
of a
yeah,
combo.
we're going to ask if somebody's got a question to write it down.
Okay.
And one of Jeff's many duties is to kind of flip through those questions and pick out one or two that seem, oh gosh, universal, if you will.
Yeah.
And then
Applicable.
go from,
Yeah.
and then go from there. And depending on, we may get none, we may get 10, so
Right.
we want options so that we can fill up that 45 minutes. Because if we
Right.
have to get one or two
Well,
questions from the audience, then we have to look to the panelists.
Now, if
Okay.
for some reason people are not asking questions, they're bashful
Right.
or whatever, Jeff, you've dealt with this many more times than I have. But these were some thoughts that might be raised that the speakers may not actually address in their presentations. But I throw these in here just in case, and these would be the ones between biology to consciousness and and psychology to mysticism here. As to what are the science issues and the faith issues that could be relevant to each other. And so you may want to think about these. I don't know, whatever.
Well, see, the thing about these kinds of questions that Bob or whatever you want to call them, these two columns that he put in there, these are the types of questions. It depends on the audience. where their
Mhm.
mind leaps to when they hear something
Sure.
that perhaps, the speaker touched on something and then went on to something else and didn't
Right.
satisfy the curiosity of somebody sitting in the audience. And this is, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but this is one of the reasons why you're really trying to get to know the speakers a little bit so that you have a sense of
Exactly.
which ones you can pull out successfully and nobody's going to have mud on their face because they're going to be able to answer it.
Yeah. I think in terms of doing a panel discussion, and Jenna, one thing I might just mention is that I do a program called Challenge 2.0, and we basically try to bring in people from different faith backgrounds and sometimes non-faith backgrounds, but dealing with different topics of what we consider value-based, ethical-based, or sometimes faith-based. And it's a matter of, I always have a certain list of questions that I have set aside, sort of in my pocket, as it were. But the ideal is to just let it sort of organically develop and let people talk with each other. And, so I have those as backup, and I'll probably revise those as we, go through the week and say, okay, here might be some other things that we want to bring into the panel discussion. But it's really a great opportunity for the people to relate to each other
Yeah.
that have been part of this discussion, and that Bob and Jan have basically curated for these panel discussions, and then to see what people are asking. And my personal feeling is that it's not going to be hard filling 45 minutes. I think it's going to be
No,
hard
it's not.
getting people to close down after 45 minutes.
I
And
think
I
the
say
term
close
is
down
shut
not in the
up.
emotional sense, but bring that down.
I think these topics are so deep that one answer can be 10 minutes or 15
Yeah.
minutes.
Oh,
We're not going to have time for very many questions.
Well, the
But
other
it
thing
sounds
too that
great. It
we
sounds
didn't
great.
mention in
I'm
the
just going to say one thing. I'm
Yeah.
going to listen, but I have a Siberian Husky in the house, and she's giving
Oh.
me very direct stare that she wants out now. I'll be right back.
That
Okay.
sounds good. That sounds good.
Yeah, we got to pay
Very good.
attention to our one thing too that we didn't mention in the beginning, Jenna, that we're planning is
Okay.
the night before the when the actual, before the conference actually starts, we are going to have a cocktail party for all of the presenters and if they
Okay.
bring someone with them, their spouse or whatever.
Okay.
And that is just for those people. There's 15, 18 of us or whatever.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that you have a little bit of an opportunity to chat with these folks. Obviously,
Okay.
you're not going to get to know them in a couple hour cocktail party, but it hopefully will relieve a little bit of that I don't know you kind of thing, or deer in headlight when you see each other in the crowd. You may not remember the name, but oh, yep, one of the speakers, kind of thing, to give
Right.
you all an opportunity to just visit a little bit on a human person to person level. I
Sure.
think that will make at least I'm hoping, and Bob and I've talked about this quite a bit, we're hoping that it will bring a certain comfort to the speakers, so that they don't feel like they're all by themselves or they're in hostile territory or however the heck you want to put it. Just so that everybody has an opportunity to talk to each other if they want to. I'm a great one I want people to be comfortable. I want it to be, pardon the Houston expression, but welcome, come in, take your shoes off, be comfortable kind of atmosphere. And I think the only way we can really generate that is for the speakers to be comfortable with each other a little bit.
Right. Right.
So that's
great.
the theory behind the cocktail party.
Okay. Sounds perfect. Sounds great.
And I think you're going to be surprised if we
Thank
do
you.
get what we want. It's going to be at the Palo 6 Hotel terrace level.
Yeah.
And when you sit on that terrace, you're looking over the 7 o'clock position of St. Peter's Square wall, and you see the Vatican lit up about 150, 200 yards away. It's unbelievable.
How can we not be all in union with a start like that?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Well,
there's been a lot of thought put into this.
Amazing.
There really has been.
And have people get a chance to meet each other. It's going to be great.
What a
we
blessing.
want a certain ease. That it's hard to do when you don't know each other. Okay, but we're doing our best to give you the opportunity. You being all the speakers, give you the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful. Sounds great.
When
That's
is the
part of the
cocktail
reason why
party
Jeff
going to
and I
be?
are.
What is that?
That's part of the reason Jeff and I are spending the time we are. on
Yeah.
Zoom calls with everybody, is to get to know you a little bit to help that transition when we all get together.
Yep. And Jeff, you asked where
Oh,
is, did you,
yeah, no, when is the cocktail party scheduled for the icebreaker?
It's, bear with me, I'll pull that up right now, just a second.
and is that the same hotel where the speakers are staying, or we're staying somewhere else?
It's,
We're hoping the speakers are going to be staying at the Palo 6. I don't know that that's been nailed down yet, has it,
Okay.
Bob?
I won't worry about that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just if I
that's our
want,
goal. Jenna, that's our goal, that it'll
yeah.
be there at the same
Okay.
place where everybody's staying.
Okay.
I'm sorry, where all the speakers are staying.
I just want to make sure I don't have jet lag, so I may come in like one day early because it's harder for me on the way in,
Mm,
you know.
yeah.
So it's hard on the way back too, so it's fine. Yeah.
We don't care what you do when you get home, Jenna. We want you fresh as
Oh.
a daisy when you get here.
Right, we need to be fresh. So the
Yeah, right.
cocktail party is the night before, and the conference starts on Tuesday, the 17th. So is it Monday evening, the 16th?
I'll show you here just a second.
He's looking for it. I think that's what it is, Jenna, I think.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
the schedule right now, okay? And so the idea would be that the cocktail party would be at 5 to 6, and then transportation and dinner at the hotel. And
Oh,
the hotel for the registrants is different than the hotel that we're trying to get for the speakers, but it may
Okay.
end up that the speakers stay at the same hotel as the registrants. The hotel for the registrants is about a 20-minute bus ride from the venue.
mm.
So
Okay.
it's
And
the
then
evening of
question
the
is,
Tuesday.
the dinner then, is that going to be at the Palo Hotel, or is that going to be at the other hotel?
The cocktail party will be at 5 at the Palo 6.
I don't
Right,
think
what
that
about
they've
the
come
dinner?
up with I don't think that a venue
Sorry,
for
what
the
was your
dinner.
question again, please?
Where's the dinner, Bob?
They have not told me
I
yet,
didn't think so. Yeah.
but
Okay.
I think it's going to be something like the dinner at the hotel where everybody's staying, but I'm not sure of that. And that's
Okay.
why when I said I don't know the logistics for Jenna and my presentation, then we have to go with either with or without a PowerPoint.
Right.
Okay. Well, one thing for sure is we'll need to go easy on the cocktails as we're presenting right after.
That has been, I was just thinking, you're going to be doing a experiential introduction to meditative practices and silent prayer. And I thought if people have had a couple of, let's say, a little fortification, that may be a bad combination.
I think it's called. I think it's called an adult beverage.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta have a quick story
Like
here. I'm a storyteller. Bear with me. Jenna, speaking of yoga masters, I have a good friend who was the first person to teach yoga teachers in the United States. And he's a good friend, and he invited me to stay at his place in New Mexico. And then we drove out to Christ in the Desert, the most remote monastery in the country.
Amazing.
And I don't know if you've been there, but it's
I
pretty.
have.
And so we're parking our car, we're walking in now. He's Buddhist and he takes retreats there. And we looked off to the side and I saw the hops for beer. And this is a Benedictine monastery, if I remember correctly.
It is. Mhm.
And so he was walking ahead of me and we had passed the sign where you're supposed to be quiet. And I took him by the shoulders and I shook him and he turned around and he said, "What's up?" And I said, "Well, how can you not be Catholic? We make our own beer." so this is the thing, having a brandy, a Benedictine brandy right before that's okay.
That's right. And aren't most of the monasteries now all over the country? They are all over the world. They all make their own wine,
A lot of them do, yeah.
They do.
Brandy,
They don't all.
things.
But yeah, it's we're just going to have to go easy on the cocktails. That's all.
Well, at least you two, because you're going to be up in front of you, and the three of you are going to have to.
Yeah, I
because
was
you're
going to
be up
say
in front of people. The rest of us, hey, we can stagger our way through that night.
I sort of apply an old rule from flying. I used to be a flight instructor, and we used to say 24 hours from bottle to throttle. And I may not wait that long before taking a microphone, but I try to apply this similar rule there.
24 hours is a long time.
Sometimes
Well,
I think we've all been on airline flights where you wonder if they've waited that long.
yeah,
Right,
exactly. Yeah, right.
exactly.
Oh,
I
please don't
think the smoother the landing, the more drinks the pilot had before, you know.
please don't tell me that. I'm terrified of flying. And
Oh,
Lyndon, oh, I am. I haven't flown. I have not been on a plane in over 25 years.
woo.
Really?
Yes, really.
Well,
And there's a very
you're in for a treat then next summer.
well, okay. I have my two escorts have told me that they will make sure if they literally have to carry me on the plane that I will get on the damn plane. I'm terrified of flying. Yes.
Well, we're going to have to order you some drinks on the plane.
Well, no, honey, it's going to take more than drinks on the plane to get me on the plane.
Okay. Faith. It's going to take faith and trust.
Well, faith and probably either alcohol or drugs or both.
Mm.
I won't tell them what the third option is, Bob. They wouldn't understand.
Well, Jeff, I'm happy to send you a copy of my book if you would like to share, give me
I'd
your
love to.
address in the
Let me go
chat.
ahead and I'll put that on chat right now.
That'd be great.
I'm getting ready to head out of the country here in just a couple days, but so I probably won't see it before I leave, but
Well, I'm doing the same. I leave Friday and I'll be out for a week, but I can try to get it out before I go, and then it'll be there when you get back.
okay. And I'm
We appreciate both of you meeting. We really do appreciate both of you meeting ahead of time because we know both of you are leaving the country. So
Yeah.
gives me time to catch up, Jeff.
okay. No, that's true. What I would say also, Jenna, if you have any questions that would be directed to me, if you haven't already, well, I think that last email, you have my email. Feel free to contact me at any time.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and then
And
Jenna,
the town is Sammamish. Okay,
and Jenna,
okay.
and
Thank
Jenna, if you don't mind taking a look at the PowerPoint I sent and look at a couple of the PowerPoint or the Zoom or the presentation
Slides?
that I have on the internet, that you can kind of sense how I do it, and then you can see what I was thinking. But obviously, it's up to you to do however you think you should do it. And if you can modify those slides accordingly to reflect how you would like to do your section of it, we can start fitting it basically
That sounds good. So you and I can start meeting,
separately, right?
separately. Let's get through, at least the next 3 weeks.
Yeah. So I just basically took the first cut, basically. That's all.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great start. Thank you. You've done the hard part.
Well, and but the words are not there. So you go on YouTube. The YouTube site has a bunch of presentations I've done. So.
Okay. I'd love to do that. That'd be great.
And again, it's not to tell you what to do, it's just to give you a sense of where I'm coming from.
Right. So this is all really, I think I appreciate you, allowing the creativity so that what's supposed to happen will be something new that we'll create together.
Right. Exactly.
I think that's important because this is another reason for that importance is that this is a new concept for a faith and science conference.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, to me, things should be new, a new approach, a different lens. And I have talked to both of you and separately about your beliefs, understanding, traditions that you use. And it's going to be incredible when you put those two together. They're going to enhance each other. And that's what we want for the audience.
I appreciate that. And I think in all cases, just the way it's being put together, that's what we want on every session. That there be
yes.
There
and
be
it's
a real
interesting.
synergy and different voices that come together for specifically a reason maybe that we don't even know yet. Because I always trust that, God's at work, Spirit's at work behind this.
For sure. Other than, I know that Jamal knows Simi, but I know that, I don't know how well, but I know he knows her. And, but Harvey does not know Laura. So it's going to be a learning experience for all of you. You happen to know Bob for a while, but you know, your approaches are different. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is encouraging that coming together of two different views of looking at the same thing and see what we come up with. Because it's all right, it's all true, it's all real. It's how you all put it together that's important.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll all grow from it.
I appreciate it. Thank you. We
All
will.
I've done is gotten older, but you know, through all of this.
Well, all of us. Well, what I'm just intrigued is that, Bob, I've known you for a while now. I mean, a long time. We've been in interfaith world here in Houston. I never knew that you were a PhD in physics.
Well, it's physical chemistry, which is similar. It's
A combination of both physics and chemistry. That's even more complex.
which doesn't help me with neuroscience or mysticism, but whatever.
No,
No, but
actually,
one thing he is, Jenna, one thing that he is an engineer. Because
right.
that's the way he approaches everything, including
Right.
faith, is as an engineer.
Well, I mean, it's important to ask the questions, because so the scientists, don't buy into faith because it has to be proven.
Yep.
So we need the minds like you that, know how to go out there and prove it, at least to ask the right questions. And just as an aside, one of my yoga teachers is also a physicist.
Oh,
So he comes at mind body work through physics.
Yeah. Well,
And he's a powerful healer. He's powerful. And it's because he understands the physics behind the energy of what we're doing.
You got I guess you read my book, whatever, but you got a sense of where I was coming from in bringing them together.
Right. I love it. Yeah.
And it was, it's a powerful union for my own personal journey. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
And it reinforces the contemplative practice. That's what's astounding to me. I mean, it's amazing. And
I know.
I don't mean just the mysticism and the Finleys of the group. I'm talking about the Bernard Carr, who understudied Stephen Hawking, even him. I mean,
every time you have these, and maybe this is true for all of you, if I have these aha moments, everything just all of a sudden it's mind blowing and you can't even imagine it. And then it's true. The only appropriate response is just to go into silence.
Well, it's all, and then
there's nothing else I mean, it's just all you can do is just sit with that.
Yeah.
And that's what the contemplative life allows us to do, is to ask the questions and sit with the truths that become revealed as they become revealed.
What most people don't realize is that the scientists had contemplative visions in discoveries. And so Einstein was one of them.
Yeah.
He alludes to that. That's where he made his jump to the E equals MC squared. He had a contemplative experience. So
the problem is, though, a lot of times the problem is, though, a lot of times they don't realize that's what it is, because they don't have the words for it. And I think, if nothing else, from hearing Bob talk about the scientists, because I don't know them either, I think some of them are going to be surprised at what they learn at this conference. If they please, and I'm going to definitely encourage this, that they go to all of the sessions, because that's the only way anybody is going to have a true appreciation for what is what's coming together in Rome.
That was a requirement that I put on them, basically.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay. Well, it's good to hear that, because I want them to learn too.
And what's happened is many of them have never met each other.
Yeah,
they're the most brilliant in their siloed field. So the interplay here of this conference is going to be such more powerful than a lot of conferences where they have breakout sessions and junior researchers talk and you don't make any sense of how it fits together. These are all top-notch people, straight through.
So I figure my head will be bursting by the time I leave there, either with enlightenment or confusion or both.
So what I'm thinking right now is what, as y'all were talking, is so next year the focus is on broadening the interfaith experiences. But I want to offer out there the following year could be something like heaven and earth are within you.
Well,
And
when you say
and
next year, I think we got to be specific. 2025 is going to be the Abrahamic faiths.
yeah, no, what I'm saying is like down the road.
2027 will be in Houston.
Right.
And
Okay.
other faiths. 2029 apparently is what you're talking about.
I am, yes. So what I'm suggesting is we do one on heaven and earth are within you. And so we explore consciousness, but we also bring it down to the earth. And then you can incorporate indigenous traditions. I've been to the Parliament of World Religions, several times, and the indigenous practices that are offered there by the Navajos and the various indigenous peoples from Central America, South America, and North America, and America here, USA. They offer some pretty powerful sessions. And what if we took this work, faith, and science and began to incorporate the conversations around planet Earth and how we could shift to think that she is sacred.
Mhm.
Well, there is a wavelength that engulfs the earth that is considered part of the wavelength of the contemplative tradition. And so people, the only insistence I would have, because I'm not going to be around then, probably
in 2029.
I don't plan on that. I've got a plot. You're not too far from here. I know where I'll be. Okay. So
Okay.
somebody else is going to have to carry this sucker on. Okay.
Oh, okay.
But I think the science is already there. The only thing I would require is we have this based on solid science, not somebody's dream of what science is. And I've been teaching this graduate course, and people can get off base and go on a tangent, and then it becomes hairy-fairy, and I don't need that.
Well, think about the chemistry and how that integrates with Ayurveda. That all the chemical elements in the table we're made of that. Like we are that. We are the earth, and just like we are the stars. So we're both.
Every atom in Jeff will tell you this. He knows this. Every atom in our body, its original source was from the sun and from stars, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. So absolutely. In fact,
The food we eat is from the earth. And so we could like do a lot with that to take faith and science and bring them together around our bodies are part of the earth and we are from the stars and to get a total respect and of the sacredness of where we live.
Well, if you look at the website in the conference, I'm hoping that will happen. When we talk to these other speakers, that's exactly the evolutionary flow I'm hoping will come out and culminate in contemplative practice. That's the idea.
Jeff and Gena, safe travels.
Yeah.
Thank
you. Thank you.
For whatever, if you're going for fun or pleasure or work or whatever, that it be successful at whatever your goal is.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be talking afterwards.
We will, I'm sure. Well,
forget about this.
I'll be leading a retreat in Costa Rica starting Saturday. So I leave Friday and we'll be there for a week and we will be on the Pacific Ocean and going to experience waterfalls and whales and dolphins and doing a lot of mind, body, spirit practices while we're there. So I'm really excited to go off and be in that clean air and fresh food environment and do some healing of my own while I lead the retreat. It will be just a lot of fun. So we'll have a lot of
both of you have a great trip and thank you for putting yourselves out to have this meeting.
Yeah, ahead of time.
Thank you.
I extended my trip to Africa, so now I'm back into the conference. So thank you so much.
Oh yeah, I had 18 days. Gena, I had 18 days with no emails in the morning from Bob.
Wow, that's amazing.
No, I thought the world had tilted on its axis.
You were breathing.
Yeah, me and Lyndon both, we talked about that a lot, that it was just not the same when we opened our emails in the morning. Well, 2 days later, he actually gave us a couple of day leeway there. 2 days later, it started all over again.
Back on, yeah. Where will you be on your trip, Jeff?
Well, we're going to be largely in the Alps between the Austrian and German side. And
Okay.
So hiking, and that's why I was I've been sort of focusing on Hildegard because we're going to be spending some time along the Rhine. And apparently it's one of the few trails that they have marked with images of nuns' heads.
Really?
And a lot of the historical sites of where Hildegard was an abbess and various other things. So it should be interesting. I'm looking
That'd be
forward to that.
It will be amazing. And so anytime you can do pilgrimage with Hildegard, that's a
Yeah.
blessing. She was very much a mystic, just amazing woman. Yeah.
Uh,
Amazing saint. Sounds beautiful. Enjoy. Hope you have lots of coats to
you.
wear. So you all, thank you so much. I really appreciate this time together. It's been a joy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
sharing your time.
Okay, we'll see you.
Yes.
Safe travels, everybody. Bye
Bye-bye.
now.
Blessings. Bye-bye. Jan,
Bye.
hang on one second. I'm going to ask you a question, Jan.
Okay.
So, yeah. I thought of one more thing I have to add when you said, is there anything about me that you want to add? When I said energy healing, I need to add sound and energy healing. So I just do so many things, it's hard for me to like even
Oh, I
remember
know.
what to
Let
say.
me find my notes here.
Yeah, back when you said, is there anything about me that you
Mhm.
want to make sure? I think it was your fourth question that
Right.
you want to make sure that you include. And so when you talk about integrating energy healing and mind, body, spirit practices into my spiritual direction practice, also it's sound and energy healing. So if you could just add the sound, that's a huge part of what I do. And I don't know why I forgot to say it. It's
That's
just that
okay.
it's all contemplative. And so I live in the present moment. So whatever comes out, it's all good.
Well, it would help if I could type. Okay. Sound is how you spell sound, right?
Yeah, sound and energy healing.
Sound
Yeah,
and energy. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. And are you gonna send that before you go to press so we can look at it just to be
I
sure?
don't know. I'm still deciding about that. Probably. I
I
probably
hope
will.
so, so make sure we get it, that
Yeah,
like,
no, I
it's
probably will.
nice.
What my practice has been, now when we hang up, disconnect, I will write your profile, or at least the
Oh,
first
okay.
draft of your
Okay.
profile. Well, a lot of this is fresh in my mind because I take
Perfect.
horrible notes. But that way I go back later and I flesh out, other things. But
Sure.
I
Okay.
want to make sure that I don't not necessarily misquote, but misrepresent anything that you said to me. I think because I haven't read the entire book, but I flipped through the Yoga Mass, and I mean, you and I've talked before, and I am getting your newsletters and whatnot from your organization, and I do read them, and so I have a let's call it a basis for what you do. I certainly don't understand it all, but I have a basic knowledge of it. So,
Yeah, it's
but
all good. Okay.
yeah,
Appreciate you reading all the stuff. That's all. That's good. Thank you. I appreciate
well,
it.
And I can assure you she's really good at what she does because she edited my book and made me sound intelligent, which is really an amazing
Well,
trick.
yeah, you do. You sound very intelligent. So
well,
Only in
amazing.
I
writing.
do a
Only
lot
in
of
writing.
research before I write anything, and this is talking with you today as part of the research.
That's great.
And
Well, it's been fun. Yeah, thank
yeah, it
you.
has been
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, it's helping all of us, and it was helpful, or it's helpful for Jeff too, because he's the one. God love him. He's going to be sitting up there, and he's going to have to pull all this together, and he's
Well,
going to have to make it
yeah,
sense.
he will. He
And
will. He's a professional.
oh, I have
He's
no
got
doubt of
this.
it. But he has
Yeah.
done. Oh my gosh, the research that man is doing on each person as well as the time. Yeah, it's
I love
incredible.
it. I
Yeah.
love it. Well, he's going to go off to the Alps and hopefully he'll remember our conversation, but it doesn't matter. It's all good.
Yeah,
I'll be in
right.
touch with you, Bob, down the road. Okay. After I get back and get settled, and you may not hear, sometimes I may just get silence because my dad had a stroke in April. My mother broke her hip 3 weeks ago.
Oh
So,
boy.
Sorry.
life is just crazy this year. Thank you. It's crazy.
And
And
you were a new grandparent this year too, right?
right. And so I
Yeah.
see a little grandbaby also. She's a joy. So between all of that, it's just a lot. So we're dealing with a lot. But
Sorry to hear that.
I thank you. My mom's better. I mean,
I can tell you my focus in what we are going to do together. We've got time. But my focus right now is to get advertisements up on everybody's websites so that we have registrants, because without registrants, we don't have a conference.
right.
So in any way you can put me in touch with the bishop, I'd be happy to. We'll do it.
Well,
Yeah, I
Jenna's
know
got it
that.
on her website. Yeah,
Yeah,
Jenna's
I've got it out there and I'm working all those connections. So I'm just gonna start rolling that out, and so it'll be okay. I'll do my best to connect the two of you and, we'll see how that rolls out,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks
But he's a
again,
busy
Jenna.
man. Okay. All right. Y'all take care. Okay.
Bye
God
now.
bless you both. Take care. Bye.
Bye.